Hello, welcome back. I find myself becoming increasingly disillusioned by this channel, what it represents. I'm all but certain that most of the comments have been Quentin just busting my balls constantly, and I don't care about that. But I just don't really see. It seems kind of futile at this point. I know he wants me to keep writing and calling Elizabeth Debicki a bitch and all these things. And I don't know that I have anything else to say. I've been writing, and that's nice actually. I've written several pages the last few days, And so that's nice. I wrote another 3 pages earlier. Just keep thinking about it, thinking about what it all represents, It's really upsetting, it's really upsetting. I suppose a part of me does maybe see a wedding. I've kind of come back full circle that Daniela has a secret daughter, that she fucked a married man when she was her daughter's age. So it's been this secret kind of cloistered thing. And that's the girl that I saw outside of the theater, right? But everything that I've been saying is also true about Quentin. And he did everything that he did because of his wife, because of Daniela, because she's so fine. I've said it 1,000 times, right? And so my point is that anyone who's been keeping up with this thing, right? And I feel like a lot more people have seen this than I realized, but in August of 2024, when Quentin stole the secret of my clairvoyant mastery, which was my celibacy, I finally engaged, and I said, "What do you want from me? You want me to go there and scream at the top of my lungs?" And he said, yeah. And so I went there, and I thought it was a woman who was digging around in my head, a skanky LA witch, And so I went to LA, and I went to a taping studio, and I cursed her reproductive organs, right? Legit, right? Blind rage, right? And so it's not like a legitimate psychological curse upon whomever's psyche, right? That has a womb and ovaries that watches it, right? This is no bullshit, right? That's the real deal, right? Oh, it doesn't mean anything, right? Sure, Yeah, prayer means nothing, all these things, yeah, it's the same thing, But my point is that if it was Daniela and her secret daughter, right? That, I think I got Mikey and Sydney too now. I think that is true. And I put a document in the mail with four ring pops. I got my box of ring pops, right? My candy brides, right? But if Quentin, right, curses, right, magic, psychic mind games, right? If Quentin, it is now my contention, right, that Quentin took out all the writing and put in another scene of sexual bondage. Originally, it was just going to be Mikey and Sydney, the Spawn Ranch girls, and literally sacrificed his wife to the altar of the movies, right? Because he's a eunuch and he can't dick her down, right? And so originally, she wasn't going to be in the movie, right? And after the two of them said, "Oh, we want him to play the movie critic," and I humiliated him as a psychic, right? When she said, "We still need to be with him," right? That this has never been about you. He doesn't care about your movie, right? He cares about this thing. We're going to make him feel good. He's going to make us feel good. That he literally took everything out that involved writing, right? Tied up his wife, had his boy fuck her in front of 15 people while he's singing I'm a Yankee Doodle Dandy off key because I'm a singer. Right? So that's right? Knowing in his arrogance that he assumed I would watch the film. I'm never watching the film. And so my point is that really that's a very clear message as far as the esoteric psychic mind game, isn't it? And that's really upsetting, on a fundamental level, how overtly evil, in fact, that actually is. That there's nothing redeemable in that until I'm inside of her, if that's what it is. Right? That what he's saying, right, at the very least, is that he and Brad think that my mind, think that the curses that I lay upon people are so trivial that they can violate the thing I curse, get paid $30 million for it, puff their chests out, get a bunch of people to talk about how badass it is, and then in their mind satiate their deep mental illness by knowing that, like, my curse had the opposite effect. Right? They're so stupid. That's the point. Like, that's how fucking stupid they are. That they literally did the opposite. Right? To where now she was only thinking about me that whole time. Right? And so while he penetrated into the thing, right? The soul of the thing, the organ of the soul is mine forever. That's the deal. Right? And so what's really upsetting about that is that they're saying, okay, now what are you going to do? Right? Now what are you going to do? Right? And so this is, and on a broader sense of the scale, you could also say anyone who worked on that set those days, right? That they're ready to go to war, right? Anyone who financed any of those things, any of that film, they're ready to go to war, right? That Hollywood, in no uncertain terms, is saying that we will exercise our money to control, right, the soul of everyone in town on our terms, not on God's terms. And anyone who goes against that, right, who is aware, right, of how to do, right, you get it? Right, and so I do this, right, because, right, I'm really stuck between an ethical rock and a hard place, like in a real way, right? That what Quentin is saying is that, like, I have $500 million, and though you could do lots of things to make my life overtly miserable through magic, right, through esotericism, through sorcery, right? If you exercise your mind, I'll murder her, right? I'll send someone to kill you because I have all the money, I have all the power. Right? Do we understand how disgustingly, overtly evil that is? Right? And so this is why I talk about it. Right? This is what we're touching on here. Right? And it really upsets me in a big way. The thought of like getting 6 or 8 people and saying, like, guys, right here, like, we gotta go off the deep end here, right? And these people, like, need to reckon with, like, what's real in their lives, And we go out in the woods and we just bury them in it until they blow their brains out, Like, that's there it is. It's the same game, right? And so my point is that if I do that, right, it's my contention that he will outright murder his wife, murder her daughter, kill himself, right? Because he's too much of a pussy, right? He doesn't want to give them to me, right? He knows that he debased them in this disgusting, ritualistic, satanic fashion. And so I sent a document out, right? I did do that on Friday. A legitimate, like, notarized document saying these are my terms, right? And so that's $100 million ahead. So it would be $600 million in total. Right? Any of the women that opt out, it's $100 million, right? And if any of the women do opt out, that's another $200 million. One for Quentin, one for Brad. Right? And so that's like, these are my terms. You ain't got to give me any money. You just, body and soul, those women are mine forever. Not to exceed the duration of their natural life. Right? Unless, right? It's very clear, right, that we can decide between ourselves, right? Without agents, without representation, without the industry, without Hollywood. Right? And so another thing that Hollywood is saying now in this is that we don't support honesty, that we don't want to foster performances that are rooted in intellectual depth and sincerity, right? That in fact, women's rights only go so far as however far the strongest sorcerer is prepared to bend and break the rules. There it is, right? As far as Honora, right? And the joke that I keep coming back to in my mind, it's like when I think about writing, it's like I wrote this scene about the opening night of the movie critic and like the press, and like I'm asking all these questions. And the thought that I keep coming back to is how Mikey Madison said, I chose not to have an intimacy coordinator on the set of Honora. And the more that I think about that, the more ridiculous it becomes. The more like how sad the industry like appears to me for not seeing like what that represents critically, right? Like, so I was supposed to be the movie critic, the character. Now I am the movie critic. The person, the entity, right? And so this is why I feel that my life is in danger, because they have all the money, right? He's playing 6 sorcerers' mind games, right? And now he really is. Like, if he's about to splay his wife's first-degree rape all over the world, he's really going to put me in a bind, right? Ethically, spiritually, right? Metaphysically, right? Legally, right? because everyone in the industry is all helping him, right? No one will confirm that, right? Right? And so that's, right? It's a deep sickness in this industry. It's really sad how sick it is. Right? To write this fucked up movie, right? With all of this like fucked up sexual shit, right? And to have all of the women in your life, right? For their own reasons, right? But for the same reason, primarily, that he's a dangerous clairvoyant and he exercises a disgusting control over their psyche, right? That's like, there it is, right? There's the sentence, right? But to have all of them say, we want it to be him. We want it to be him. And for him to like go through all these like convoluted systems of traps, right? That would take me another hour to explain everything. I know when I sent Django and Hamlet that, especially as the daughter, if she was like googly-eyed and was like Mrs. Paul McCartney, and I get the feeling that that's how he was. And I don't say that I'm not deserving. I just say that that's a surprise, you know, and that's wonderful. I know that she's real fine. I know that she's real fine, barely legal, like hot pink pussy, you know, like yeah, full deal, you know, like 100%. Right? Then as soon as I sent Django and Hamlet, because that's how he directed me, like, right? If he's a master, right? If he's like, because, especially if it's like how it is in his body, right? That he can't get in the way of that. You know, that's just weird. That's just fucking creepy. That's it. That's the whole formula. And so I'm wrestling with that, like in a real way, you know, like how petty I was, not seeing how lost he is, not seeing, you know, I thought they were all skanks. That's like, honestly, if I had a thought at all. That everyone's on the same page, and so if I'm in the club, right? Like if I'm in the club, right? We go by God's rules. That's no, you know, like that's, and this is what he struggles with a lot, right? That he wanted me to see Daniela. He wanted me, right? Like all these things, you know, like because this is like, right? That's like what it was all. Well, that's what it was all about, you know. It wasn't just for a job, you know. It was for a wife that I didn't know existed, you know. Like that's the point, you know. And so, right. When he turned his back, I saw a satanic deal for money, right? That this was like a Faustian pact, that I give him some sort of weird control over my psyche in exchange for fame and money. No deal. No deal. Celestial divine love from a beautiful woman? You got it. That's fair. That's actually fair. Because she'll give me babies and we can like do dope shit together, right? And so that's like, it's equal exchange, you know? But being how I am, right? It has to be a conversation. And as far as being a secret, right? It didn't do him any favors, did it? Right, but she wanted to go to me immediately when I was doing the Two Gentlemen of Verona. I know she did. That she's instantly, like, she's at an age, she's like at a real impressionable age, and I don't know how old she is, maybe 19, maybe 20, like maybe 18 in a day, you know. She's not old. She's not 24. Right? But she said, yep, hot man, writer, musician, singer, he's the one, right? And when the girls, when Mikey and Sydney saw his material, saw my material, right? If they get tied up and fucked, and they do, and now Daniela did too, right? Makes a lot of fucking sense, doesn't it? Say, oh yeah, he's great, yeah, you marry him, and like, he'll be cool, he'll be professional, right? But it's, right? Or it's crusty old Brad Pitt, and it's like gross old men being gross. Isn't that right? And so that's where like Brad, like when I think about it, right? That's, you know, that's like next level creep. That's like next level scumbag. 100%. 100%. To look at them and know that they're disgusted with him, that they don't like, knowing that I never knew. Right? That I'm not privy to like what the script is. Right? I have to take Quentin's psychic ejaculate. You know, like I have to corrupt my mind in order to like get access to that. That's like what Tribeca was. And it was in exchange for, right? To hang out at his house all the time and like be a part of his family and get written into his will and all these things, you know, like it was a fair exchange on the highest levels of intellectual understanding, right? But it's only fair if we're all on the same level of understanding. That's the point. Right? And so, right? Oh, you show me a good-looking woman for 30 seconds? Does that... Oh. Like, no, that's not good enough, right? 9 years celibate. right? No, you have to, right? We have to like express ourselves, right? And he doesn't have to go on and on, right? My wife has a daughter a lot of people don't know about, and she really wants to meet you, so you be brave. That's it. Nothing about marriage, nothing about like none of that. Right? Because in my mind, I would have been like, oh, cool. Like, she's got all the money in the world. Like, she's not going to trip. Like, yeah, she likes me. I like her. Like, Daniela's fine. She's probably fine, too. Right? Barking like a dog. Yeah. And so, it's just, like, difficult to, like, fear for my safety in such a tangible way. And so in that way, maybe I see a wedding. Maybe there's, like, some sort of wedding that's, like, impending just because, right? It's just gotten too out of hand. It's just gotten too, as far as the essay. I've written my essay, and, you know, it's ridiculous. I don't want to say these things, you know, but I think that's like, maybe that's like, that's what we need, right? Because it's obvious, like, because I put my secret on paper, you know, when I cursed their reproductive organs, right? Right? So my point is that Brad Pitt's a creep, right? That Brad Pitt, right? That he thought, like, I don't know, like, what, like, how can you, I can't imagine, like, seeing these women, seeing the script, knowing that they are, like, disgusted at the thought of, like, doing these scenes with you. If nothing else than for solidarity for their friend who wants to be in love, you know? Like that's like, right? Like where's cool Brad Pitt in that formula, honestly, you know? Where's the guy that's like 60 years old who sees that this girl is 20 and like trying to marry a handsome man, a handsome, talented man, you know? I think that's like kind of not cool, actually. I think that's like disgusting and creepy, and that's rape. You know, that's like, I see that as rape, for sure. Oh, legal, like, oh, there's the paperwork. Oh, he penetrated her, but like she signed away, like there's no intimacy coordinator, right? You get it, which is, you know, I talked to Sag on the phone. It is a rule. If there is, right, simulated pornographic, right, you have to have one. They don't keep records. They don't, like, they couldn't tell me who it was. Oh, you have to talk to production. And I'd like to point out that they're lacking in customer service as well. That they're all like, you know what Hollywood's problem is, right? They got too much varnish. Right? They got too much self-aggrandizement. Right? They think that because like they make a successful movie and they like make a bunch of money that gives you the right to be rude. That gives you the right to like not respect people. And especially as far as SAG, right? Like, can you imagine working for a union that's supposed to like support actors' rights and have someone say, I'm pretty sure these women got tied up and fucked and you need to talk to them about that. And for them to say, oh, well, you need a witness, like that's like, you know, it's sad, you know, it's sad that they're all like so like deeply entrenched in this idea of like holier than thou, better than now, right? That they actively deny, right? A true spiritual concern, you know? And I know that that's the whole point, isn't it? That's like, I suppose that's the whole point. Right? Was not to play the movie critic, you know? It was to, right? I have no secrets, that's the point. I bow before the altar of the Lord. And we can talk about hardcore shit. I can talk about psychic occultism, right? Anthropomancy, all these things. We can talk about those things. How they work, they're real. Right? But when I think about, you know, anyway, to come back to the scene, I kind of got sidetracked, but to come back to the scene in the beginning, it needs to start with me questioning her about Honora, right? You mentioned at a Hollywood Reporter roundtable that you decided, right, you didn't want an intimacy coordinator on the set of Honora, where you won your first Oscar. Would you care to explain that a little bit? Would you care to elaborate on that a little bit? To which you would say, I'm not really sure, like, what you want me to say. To which I would say, well, I guess, like, if I'm just, like, looking at this thing critically, like, nuts and bolts on the ground, aren't you kind of like isn't, like, what you're actually saying in that, right, could be, like, easily construed as you saying, oh, I'm a whore, I like to get dick down at work. Isn't that, right? Like, I don't judge, you fine, girl. I'll dig you down at work. Right? But isn't that, like, so you would just willingly forsake the safeguards that prevent you from, like, having inappropriate sexual scenarios on set? That's because you're a whore who loves dick. Isn't that, like, just explain to me, like, why you would forsake that, like, intellectually. Right? And so that's a real question, isn't it? Like, that's a real question. And so it's obvious that the answer is that she was manipulated in a disgusting way. And everyone on that set was, right? And now, right, there's a part of me that thinks that A24 is about to let me, like, eat a gold bar out of their ass with a silver spoon, right, to keep me cool. Right? And they just, you know? So, and I don't know. I just can't see how, like, the people around him, right? And this is, like, I guess, like, you know, like, this is where I'm, like, really sad. It's, like, really settling in my mind. Like, oh, there really are. They are all literally that stupid. That's the only, if they're not all evil, like, we really are. We're, like, running out of options here. Right? As far as, right, fucking those women, right? Like, right? Penetrating into their reproductive organs on top of my curse. Right? That's like, yeah, that's a pretty fucking clear line in the sand from one adept to another. Right? And so, like, right, I guess what I'm saying is, like, there's the line in the sand. Right? That I'm prepared to exercise my mind. Right? As a telepath, as a psychic. Right? And so, when I cursed their reproductive organs as a telepath, as a psychic, right? Quentin compelled them as a telepath, as a psychic, right? To sign their lives away, spread their legs, and get forcibly penetrated in bondage by a man that they consider a rapist. That's like, there it is, Hollywood, right? Now it's my turn, isn't it? Right? And so this is the point at the end of the novel, right? This is the point at the end of the novel, right? The Celestial Iron Maiden, all these things, right? If I set my mind upon someone, right, in the way that Quentin seeks his mind upon anyone, upon me most of all, and I say, this is my whole world. I see you suffer. I see you eat a bullet. I see you get in a car accident. Right? I see you get AIDS. Right? Done. They're done. 2 days. 3 days. Right? I won't eat. I won't sleep. Right? Disgusting vision board just going off constantly. It's easy. Right? And so what I'm saying is that, like, is that what Brad Pitt, like, is, like, did he really, like, understand, like, what he was signing up for? I get the feeling, right? I get the feeling that they're all, like, really thinking about, like, what it is right now, right? What Quentin and I have always known, right? That this ain't got nothing to do with money, right? It's about power, control, submission, domination, right? So, right, he's been trying to control my body through my mind all this time, right? That's the whole point, because he's, like, fucked up, right? He's got a genetic deficiency, right? So he has to control the men's minds, right? Who are fucking these women in that scene, because that's the only way he could fuck. You get it? That's like, there it is. There it is. Right? And so the reason that everything is so tenuous now, and why we really need to come together, right? Or the entire industry is essentially overtly saying, like, you know, fuck you, Brian, like, we don't care, right? Which is dangerous. It's stupid, right? Because I don't have to actually do anything. I can just keep writing about it, you know? Like, that's the point, right? My essay, I don't have to, right? Like, mind power, like a psychic mind game, you know? Right? Right? But I think it's time to start, like, overtly saying, like, where we fall on this line, right? Because it's beyond artifice. It ain't got nothing to do with Gucci, right? How Gucci is your soul, right? Like, that's like, there it is, right? Nuts on the table, right? This is why these women are gonna have my babies, you understand? That's like, right? He could keep them from me for as long as he wants. I'm never gonna be weird about it. That's the point, right? But if they're ever in front of me, right, I'm gonna look them in the eye and say, you understand why I said everything that I said, right? Right? And they're smart. They're not dumb. They're gonna say, yes, we know. We know. It's not cool. Are you prepared to have my baby? Yes, let's go. You're awesome. That's it. That's the whole formula. Right? Right? So, we've all been operating under this, you know. And I didn't see the legacy of it, you know. Like, I guess, like, maybe that's what I resented the most. Right? That he put his whole legacy on the altar of magic, you know. Knowing that I'm not dumb. You know? Like, that's like, you're not divine, dude. That's like, no, that's too far. That's too far. Right? And this is, right, at the risk of arrogance, right, this is what the women all love. Because this is how he treats everyone all the time. Right? And so when he turned his back, in my mind, I was like, oh, this guy, right, like, oh, he thinks that, right, he thinks he's divine. He thinks he has some sort of, like, some right to manipulate me in unhealthy ways in my mind forever, right? Right? All these things. I thought about all those things, 1,000 more. Like, I'll never have my thoughts. I'll never, like, right? I'll never be free. You know, now I'm not. You know, like, he did it. He got what he wanted. Right? And so this is, right, I know these women are all, right, beyond the fact that we're all hot for each other, that it's like fantasy shit. It's like hardcore, perverted, pornographic shit, you know? But beyond that, right, it's a psychiatric concern, you know? Like, it's a psychological concern. It's not that it interests me to be cruel, right? I saw him as being cruel. I saw him as debasing my mind in that moment, right? Like, oh, you glorify it, like, subtly through, like, schizophrenic dream logic. I don't think that's good. That's not good enough for me. I'm sorry. Like, yeah, like, sure, like, for anyone else, you know, like, for anyone who's not broken, for anyone who doesn't, like, only live in their mind, right? But in that moment, right, I couldn't see Sophia. I couldn't see Daniela. I couldn't see that his house is so out of order, right? It boggles my mind why he would ever take a wife being the way that he is. Being, especially her, you know, like, whoa, god damn, you know? God damn. She's everything, you know? I don't blame him. I don't blame him. Especially after he found out she has a secret daughter. Right? That's... Right? That she already compromised. You get it? Maybe not secret, but, you know, not legit. Bastard. From a rich man, probably. Right? Because she fine. Yes, ma'am. Right? Mama Bear thirsty. Right, my point is that he's got to look out for them, right? That this is like the psychic mind game, right? I don't have to like say these things, you know? Like, you want to like put an iron grip like over these women's like reproductive organs, right? Then does it not make sense that like the only other adept who ever understood when he curses their reproductive organs, they would say, he's got it, he bought it, yep, that's the one, and he's been raging ever since. Right? And I didn't realize this. I thought that everyone was disgusting. And he was like a Hollywood legend. And he has like satanic sex and dicks down that fine fucking witch 5 times a day. That's like what I thought. You know, like, yeah. And so I was like the divine thing, like pushing up against like the satanic wall of Hollywood. Saying, no, we can't, like, no, I need it to be like a sincere, loving, right? And now I see that, right? That the system is disgusting, right? For venerating him, for... you know, giving him so much money, knowing like how I feel like people have known forever. I feel like he probably made a real fool of himself in his 30s when he had a bunch of money. And I don't know that, but we all know he likes the nose candy. Right? And so it's really tough because like if he doesn't have any hormones, right, then he really couldn't like see like the psychic, right, like importance of like her bringing my material to him and saying, oh, I really like this man, you know, because he couldn't smell it, he couldn't, you know, and that's, you know, that's hard. I don't discount that. I see why it's such a hard road for him. But now, right, they can't do secrets anymore. That's the point, right? And so I feel like it's like a celestial shotgun wedding, you know, in Beverly Hills, you know, with the Beverly Hillbilly. Magic hillbilly man. Psychic stud. I fucking hate that. And that's what it always was, wasn't it? You know, that's... He wanted to cast like a real magic spell over my mind in exchange for these 4 women, you know, like that's essentially what it was, because the 2 that were in the film were so wrecked with like how to see themselves knowing that they were like about to do this, and it's like a legit like kind of sacrificial thing, psychologically, spiritually, right? They're smart, they're not fucking dumb, you know? And the 2 at his house, because he's kept them cloistered like nuns in the nunnery, you know? Right? That's right, like that's fair, that's fair, like cool, like yeah, lizard slime, yeah, like a wife kind of like woman that like wants to like be with me. right? Because I'm cool and she likes like when I sing and like likes when I act and oh, that's what I submit for. That's cool. I'll do that. Right? Oh, to be in Quentin Tarantino's movie, that's not worth it. That's not like no, that's just like me. That's like then I'm just like every other actor. Right? Then I'm just like not holding you accountable, you know? And that's I hate myself for doing it. You know, I hate myself for being so goddamn wise, so goddamn stubborn that I couldn't see that he was like really terrified at the thought of actually getting what he wanted. Because then he'd have to address who he is. And we have, you know. I don't know. Are they hot for me? I feel like they're fucking all hot for me. You know, like as far as the two at his house, of course he had no business marrying her. She's obviously like a hot slut. Not like a whore, you know, but like she's cool. I'm sure she's cool. Right? And she likes to dance and like fucking do Molly and like fuck all the time, you know, like yeah, I bet that's true. You know, and so she's been this like kind of like really repressed, kind of cloistered thing, because Quentin made such a fool of himself when he was in his 30s, right? He's terrified to go out with her. Right? This is why he wanted to live in Tel Aviv. Right? And so when they saw my material, right, like me not knowing like how it is, right, they both did, you know, for their own reasons, like as far as like the daughter, like for like wanting a husband that she can like say, oh cool, he's my jewel, he's not like an LA hack, you know, like that's like, that fucking makes a lot of sense actually, you know. And the mother, right, because like she's a freak and she's like been held hostage like all these years, you know, that they're both like kind of like raging at the fact that they like can't get down, you know. And so they saw my material, right, and this is where he blew it, you know, for sure. This is where he blew it, like taking her for a wife for years, for 7 years, however long, you know, like not for a month. Right, but for them to show him my material and right and say, we want him to play the role. Right, we want him to come stay here. Like she likes him a lot, right? She wants to be with him, and I think that he'd be right for this house. You know, like that's like, it's you know, it's really sad. You know, it's really sad. Like how unresolved he is. You know, and it's all a product of the syndrome. You know, like he has no right. It's fucked up. It's fucked up. And if he's a product of spousal abuse, right, he has a deep frequency of violence, like in every single one of his cells. This is why he's like has all that anxiety, you know, it's right. But my point is that I would have done it, you know, if I knew that, right, even not mention the women at all, you know, not even like by name, just say like there are people who like want to see you play the role, and so like I'll give you a shot. You question me, right? You be in the front row and you question me about cinema speculation. That's right. That's all he had to say. That's all he had to say. And then I would have rested. Right? I would have relaxed. Right? And so again, this is like where I'm broken, right? Because I have to have disclosure. Like I have to have, right? I resent psychic occultism, right? I don't need you to teach me the ways of intuition, right? I don't need you to teach me the ways of intention. I don't need, like, you know, a psychic overlord in the spirit of Aleister Crowley. I don't need that. I never needed that. Right? And this is what got me more and more frustrated as the time passed, you know, between the time he canceled the film and Tribeca. Knowing that he was watching me whenever he wanted. Between the announcing of Brad Pitt in April when he canceled the film. That's what I'm also coming to realize more and more, that the women in his life, they were all like, this is bullshit. This is actually bullshit. He's gonna do something. And so he literally like sat there like saying, oh, what do I do about this man? You know what I mean? Like he's too like, and this is like the deep frequency of it where he couldn't just relax and see that like his stepdaughter was in love, you know, like that's like, you know, the truth is easy, you know, the truth is always easy. And I'm just really wrestling with that, with why he would devote so much time to controlling people with his mind and never understand, like, why you do it, you know? And if it's not to love people and to see what they need and to help them be happy, then you got no business doing it. That's the point. Right? Then you're just evil. That's the point. So, I know she's even finer than I remember. I know that. I know that's true. That she's like everything. Just like never change. You know? Like I'm sure that's true, you know? is Hollywood prepared to assassinate me? You know? Is the statement of this film that Hollywood is interested in magical retribution, psychological mind games of the highest order? Like, does Hollywood consider women sacrificial lambs to the altar of the movies? Are they prepared to acknowledge that they have, in fact, engendered deep-seated psychiatric mental illness in all of these women as a result of Quentin's campaign over me and over the rest of them? Right? Are they prepared to look at all these women for the rest of their lives, knowing that they have a disgusting, unhealthy relationship with Quentin and therefore have no sex life? Right? That he's made them dry up like the River Nile. Is that right? Like, do we like that's like you all understand as an industry that that's like the line that you're drawing in the sand here, right? That those women can only get hot on Quentin's set filtered through Quentin's sadism. And so I say that that's technically illegal. I say that that's a disgusting reign of terror, right? That we need to hold him accountable for. That they have the right? He can get other women, right? He can get other Spawn Ranch girls. What did Ellie Fanning say, right? What did Margaret Qualley say? Right? The point is that he only plays these games with Mikey and Sydney, and that's why they did it, right? And they're so embarrassed. They're like Daniela and Sophia, whatever her name is. Her name's Sophia in the novel. Maybe it is Sophia. Sharona, Daniela. No. But my point is that, right, you don't get to decide who penetrates these women just because you wrote a film. That's directing a rape. That's like what you're doing. You're a conspirator in a rape case, a serial rape case. Right? You can write Mary Poppins, right? And then it don't matter. Right? But if you write, he ties them up, he penetrates them, he sings I'm a Yankee Doodle Dandy off key. Right? That's right, they have a say. They actually do have a legitimate say. More than the writer. Yes, that's the point. Because it's their body getting violated. Yes. That's like, this is simple, right? This is not like a convoluted notion, right? I'm getting fucked in bondage. I want it to be this man. That's it. That's the whole formula. That's it. That's all, right? And so, right? Hollywood, right? Like, that's like, we're all on the same page here. We're talking about the industry, right? What they're saying, right, is that only some women have rights, right? If you find yourself under the sadistic psychic dominion, right, of, in this instance, Quentin Tarantino, but in truth, any practitioner, right? Any practitioner who seeks to wield this, right, can exact such a campaign over anyone's psyche that to attempt to explain it to anyone else is almost always immediately dismissed as schizophrenia or mental illness. That's the point, right? That's like, these are the rules, right? The psychic mind game, right? Like, it's, right? It seems madness to the uninitiated, and it always will. Right? But we as an industry, right, we don't actually care that you don't want to do these pornographic scenes with this man, that you are grossed out at the thought of like being treated this way by this man in those scenes, right? Because the man that you want to do it, right, the guy who wrote it, he can't control him as a psychic. And since he's a eunuch, right, since there's nothing going on down here, if he can't control the man with his mind, right, then it's not about him like fucking the women, right? It's about the guy fucking the women and their mind at the same time. You get it? That's right. Like, that's sick, right? That's not cool. Like, that's a dangerous psychology. That's complete lunacy. You know, like that's there it is, right? And so so that's the message that we want to propagate with this film. And so that's what makes me think Celestial Shotgun Wedding. Right? He gives me the women. I have my red carpet prison, right? And he buys me a nice house, and you know, I sit there and I can like make shit and then I can be like Betty Davis and whatever happened to Baby Jane, you know? And Jack Nicholson throwing the fucking tennis ball while they're promoting the film. You know, I suppose I'm cool with it as long as like we're hot for each other. You know, right? Barefoot and pregnant. You know, that's hot. We're good. Fair enough. Didn't get it. 9-year celibate. Sorry, dude. I hate psychic mind games. Right? You're not a demiurge. You're not like a god. Like, you could be a demon. I think you are a demon. I don't give demons control over my psyche. Right? Oh, you're a reluctant father, right? Like, that's stepfather, right? So she would have been like 9 or 10, something like that. Right? So it's done. I mean, it's done. It's done. There's nothing else to say. Like, if like half of what I'm saying is true, right? And the two that got, right? If there's like 3 women who got tied up and fucked by Brad Pitt, and they all wanted it to be me that like did the fucking like in the film, then they were only thinking about me, right? And he has damaged their psyche to such an attenuated degree that they have no choice but for all of us to like come together and like hang out and pick up the pieces together. That's my point, that's my real point. Like that Hollywood, right? That you're like, this is what you're supporting, like this is, right? You support a rapist, Brad Pitt went there knowing full well that they hated him, that they resented him for like pushing that he needs to do it, right? It's still about Cliff Booth, right? Like Cliff Booth is his father, right? That's the whole point, right? That he was supposed to not act like his father anymore, right? And so that's like really sad that he didn't have one woman, he had 4, he had 4 fucking women, right? And so like that's like, you see what that means, right? He doesn't respect anyone. So it's like, it's a double-edged sword, for sure, because like I could have done it. Like I could have sacrificed something in me, some pure part of me. And then when I saw Sophia, when I saw Daniela like so eager like to be close with me, I would have, of course, I would have said, "Oh yes, you're so fine, you're everything," right? But at the same time, right? It can also be argued, right, that the only man worthy of being in his family is the man who's not his psychic cuck. You get it? Right? Because if he like treats them a certain way, right, and they got like physical needs, now I'm the buffer, you get it? Like I fill the gap. Right? That I like make them feel good, and they make me feel good because we're like, we're not all mind. Quentin's all mind, But I have like, raging libido, I have like a bunch of testosterone. I'm just like celibate, And they have like a bunch of estrogen, but they're just like, they don't like fucking with Quentin in their head, you know what I'm saying? But now that like I'm between them, right, we can get hot for each other like all the time, And I can like take them out and say like, yeah, Daniela's fine, right? She's not a sand nigger who shits in a bucket, right? LA needs to see more of her, right? That's the point, right? That's like what they were saying, it's not my job to see what they need, right? He took the wife, right? And that's my point when I say I thought they were all satanic bitches. That's like what I thought. Why would I think anything else? Right? Submit the treasures of your body to me. Right? And then I think otherwise. That is like where I'm at. Pretty much. Right? And I don't mean that to be like any sort of like arrogant beyond what it is. Right? Just like I said earlier. Right? Do you appreciate what Quentin did to me? Do you think that the way that he treats me, treats all of us is okay? And of course they're going to say, no, I don't approve. Right? So spread your legs or you're a fucking bitch. Yeah, that's pretty much how I feel. And I know they love that. I know these bitches all love that shit. Right? All these men are losers. Right? Oh, you want to find peace? Right? Gotta take it. Gotta know what's fighting for. What's worth fighting for. Right? Quentin had the option to see, right? Because he's like 63 years old, 64 years old. Right? That his wife is like hot. She's like fucking fine as shit, And he can't like help her in that way. And I get it. I genuinely get it. Right? Where he was like doing a bunch of coke and like eating her out all the time and saying, oh yeah, you're so fine. And he probably meant it because she is fine and that fucking shit tastes good, I'm sure. But he doesn't have any testosterone, It's like it's a legitimate, like it's a divine fracture from birth, I don't like railroading him. I don't really like talking about it anymore because I have just deep flaws as well, like deep physical flaws as well. Like so shockingly similar, But as the weeks, as the years dragged on, right, that he can't like it fucking, he's like me. That's why I don't jerk off, right? I mean, I jerk off whenever I want, but he got frustrated with it, right? More and more. That's the point. Like he just kept thinking about like, oh, like this is like a half measure, and like I don't like thinking about it, and I get that, but at the same time, right? At the same time, right? Cool guy from the outside, right? Oh, I can talk to him and he'll be cool. Like that's mastery, right? Like, oh, love, like, oh, my stepdaughter like really likes this guy, right? And she was thinking about her mother too, for sure, you know? Like, oh, he can help both of us. Like, he'll be good to her too, you know? And it is just fucked up to think about, you know? Right? Not because it's hot, but it is hot, but because, right, he terrorizes them, you know? Like, that's the real point, you know? And it upsets me a lot that I write, you know? I write the temple that knows her family, and they don't have anything to say, you know? Then that tells me everything I need to know, right? That if I'm not wrong, I'm right. There it is, right? And so it's not about being hot for them, you know. Like, that's not like what it's about, you know. But I am, like, very much, you know. Like, that's cool. Like, yeah, let's do that. Let's hang out. Like, let's be loose and free, you know. Let's fuck all the time, you know. Like, yeah, I want that, you know, for sure, you know. But right, it's about like just letting them like be free, you know, like letting them have their lives, you know. Letting like his stepdaughter be young and beautiful, you know. No, not filtered through like his mind, right? He knew that I never cared about money or anything. I wrote like that and I know this is what they really loved. This that they saw those stack of letters, like 20 pages, 4 letters in one package because the first 3 got sent back. And then it sat there for 6 months that I said, no, it's in God's hands now. That they really loved that. They saw a discipline that they really admired, you know. And so, you know, he was supposed to listen to that. That's the point. You know, he doesn't have to be miserable anymore. That's the point, right? Like, he always saw it backwards. You know, he always, and this is what he hates so much. You know, that he's done it to our minds to like such a degree that he's not gonna feel good. You know, he's not gonna feel good until we're together. There's no way he's happy. It is a psychiatric condition now. You know, I'm always alone. It doesn't mean anything that there's a wicked practitioner somewhere. You know, but I know that they're not happy. None of them are happy, right? Because they see that it is. It's like a sick condition between us. You know, and we'll never be free of each other. And he won't feel whole until, right, we've shared each other biblically, you know, like, and that's hard. That's like a hard road to walk, you know. If it has to be filtered through, and he got what he wanted, that's like the real point, isn't it? Right, that he does control my mind in an unhealthy way, and he will always be with us every time we're intimate, you know. And I've made my peace with it. I know it's going to be weird. I know I'm going to like think about AIDS and, you know, like all these things. I'm not gonna want to look him in the eye and, you know, like all these things, you know. I think about that wedding, like if there is like a wedding impending, and I feel like there probably is, you know. Or I'm going to make $600, and I don't think any of these women are okay with that. I don't think any of these women are okay with the studios just like paying me a bunch of money and me setting up my own Hollywood and telling like all the actors that I hire that they're actually disgusting skanks. I don't think that they're okay with that, you know. I think that they're ready to bend the knee and say, we admire your strength. We're glad you did it to Quentin. He's a fucking loser and an asshole. Yeah, that's like what I have to say about that. And so now, right, that they've been, right, this is my point I was making about the Oscars, that they were, it seems like Mikey and Sydney finally were like, I think maybe it's probably easiest for you all to just like see it for what it is, the truth. He's been telling you the truth the entire time. That's like, there it is, right? You think that he has this much to say and it's like a complete delusion? No, Quentin's been trying to make him kill himself this entire time, and he's done the most disgusting things anyone could possibly do to anyone. And so they're all like really like reckoning with like what that represents, how they're exposed, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, because this has nothing to do with money, right? That this is, right, dead by mysterious circumstances. You know, like really sick, you know? And so this is the point about the age, right? This is what I mentioned in my email. That he's not a master, it's obvious. He doesn't understand like what he's doing in that way because he would have never done that, because that's just disgusting. You know, like a real master would have, right? A real master would have let the women go and found new disciples, right? That's the point, right? But just because it's 99.9995% impossible, that doesn't make it impossible. That's what I said in the email, right? That he's touching on something that like he can't ever take any of those actions back. You know? And so, like, I'm sure it's fine. And like, I'm a child of God, right? But that doesn't mean that, right, that he's not dangerous. That's the point, right? That he's been doing this for a long time, right? I don't respect psychics, right? I don't respect being treated that way, right? Like, oh gosh, like, oh, that girl, she's so fine. Am I supposed to like, right? Like, no, you're manipulating me. That's like what I saw, right? And so, right? The thought of him doing that, like, you know, like having some sort of like clay fetish black magic shrine with hypodermic needles, like make with blood, like making me think he's like putting dirty AIDS blood into my magnetic body. That's the sickest fucking thing anyone can imagine. That represents a level of lunacy that needs to be in a straitjacket. So I suppose I'll leave on that. Something to consider.